This week's episode of the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast was recorded before a live studio audience. Hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm a residential sales manager and associate broker for ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 67. 76. It's been a long day and a long year. And I am indeed recording in front of a studio live audience because I have Omar on the other side of my wall over here. He's one of our agents here, and he came in. Okay, talk about dedication in your agents. All right. He does have a day job. All right. He wants to transition over to be a full-time real estate agent. So he gets 2 weeks of vacation. What does he do? He comes into the office every day for 2 weeks. All right. All right, that's dedication. That's one of our rock stars we got here. Say hi, Omar.
Hi.
I told you not to talk while I was recording. So it's been an interesting week so far, and we had Tina on Monday, and I completely stole her presentation and screenshot everything, and did a recording on that yesterday while it was still fresh in my mind. A couple news items that have just come up is, we got another lender letting go more loan officers. A company called the Loan Depot announced this week that they're going to be getting rid of 4,800 agents to try to return themselves to profitability. Like we've been saying, loan lenders, when there's a rate shift, are usually the first ones to get hit. They're the first ones to get hit hard. And they just have to start dumping people. The refi market is dead, even though just today I saw an article saying that since the interest rates seem to be leveling out a bit, they're not as choppy they have been. There is an uptick in people applying for refis. I don't know if that's people going, okay, we have to do it now because we missed a boat, or whatever the reason might be. So hopefully, for at least the lenders we know, that might be some good news for them. Other things that came up in the news this week is, let's see, that was the big one. We just found out today our inflation rate just hit over 9%. All right, that's definitely going to have impact, especially in our appreciation, and we're going to have a conversation about that when we talk about the Tina numbers. And numbers this week, we're just keep going where we keep going and stuff. Let's go straight to that. And so Tina had some pretty good charts and to really show what's going on in the market. And I've always said, when I start screaming, start paying attention. I'll be screaming before anybody else is. And what struck me as odd about this is that Tina's a performance show, Zoom meeting was Monday. At about 1 o'clock, right? And I was just getting out of a sales meeting where, I sit there and I'm talking, my agents going, this is what we're seeing, this is what's going on. And then an hour later, Tina comes in and says pretty much exactly what I was saying, which always makes me feel good when she's agreeing with me because, she is the smartest woman in real estate right now. And actually might be the smartest person. She does work for another guy named Mike, and he's the head and everything like that, but for some reason they always have her doing all the talking. So I really think she's the smartest person in real estate. So anyways, and I like it when she agrees with me. So, but when she started talking on this, I started print screening, trying to screen capture as fast as I could when she's showing these slides, and to show you what we got going on right now. Let's just go to first slide and I'll show you. All right, so what we got going on out there is, this is the contract ratio chart. Now, the contract ratio chart is how many houses are under contract as opposed to how many houses are actively sold. All right. And we've been having some real serious numbers here recently. Last year, you'd have the ratio of, they express this thing with a number, right? So 250 up here, all right, which is as high as this individual chart goes. All right, anything above 200 is considered insanity. All right, the chart only goes up to 250. She actually used to have to come up with a different color, all right, because it goes, as you can see, all the way up through the greens, to the blues. All right, on the heat map and stuff like that, she had to come up with another color besides gray. It used to go up to a deep dark, almost like this color here, red. All right, and then when it went beyond that, they had to come up with another color. So they started using gray. So it's like, it's so much of a forest fire. The market is so hot, you're looking at burnt ashes now. All right, but that ratio of 250, 200, the ratio of 100. All right, that is one listing for every contract you have out there. Okay, so if you have 5 houses on the market, you got 5 contracts going. That's considered a frenzy. All right, that's considered, you know, a pretty big ratio. And then it breaks down. All right, if you can see on this chart, you know, looking at it, it gets warm, all right, at about 40 or so. All right, and it gets cool when the ratio is below 0. All right, and you can see right here, July 1st or 7th, when she ran this thing, all right, we are now officially in a warm market, and that's throughout the entire MLS. All right, just 15 weeks ago, all right, we were up here in the insanity thing. This is how fast everything's diving down. Here's another chart that actually shows that even better. All right, this is a contract, same thing, contract ratio. All right, 100 being one house under contract for every house for sale. Right, and this is where we've normally been at. Now, the different color lines, each color line is a different year. All right, I included 2014 on here for a reason. All right, 2014 is this line right down here. All right, this sort of teal color line right down here at the bottom. All right, because that was our last balanced market. Right, what we considered a balanced market. A house is going to be on the market anywhere between 45 to 60 days. Houses come on, houses come off. Buyers show up, buyers find a house and walk off with it. All right, that 2014 was our last balanced market. All right, and you see it as our baseline down here. Now, this chart also shows you our seasonality. You can see how things always tend to die down a little bit, you know, here in the holidays area and whatnot. That, right, and you can see how things peak up. Now, 2020 is this line right here. We had a little spike, or spring spike that we usually get. Dives down in April. All right, ratio starts building up. All right, and that's 2020. Right, and then you see 2021 being this. Let's see, 2021 is indeed. Nope, that's 2022. 2021 was this purple one up here at the top. Big super spike. All right, that was that market right there this time last year. All right, is what a lot of people, or the spring of last year, is what a lot of people think of when they think of our market today. All right, they're just starting to get the inkling that things are changing. All right, remember, the press always follows behind reality. All right, by 4 to 6 weeks. All right, real estate agents start noticing it. Real estate news organizations, Iman, those other guys, start noticing it. Then the business journals start noticing it. And then, finally, all right, does the Arizona Republic decide to do an article about it? All right, so if you're reading in the Arizona Republic, just remember you are 4 weeks behind the curve, boys and girls. All right, so, and you can see right here, when things started shifting down, we got a normal, now notice, we have a normal seasonality, not really well represented on a contract ratio, but we have a normal seasonality every spring. And then all of a sudden, in this particular one, all right, that last week of March, first week of April, we suddenly start going below what a normal seasonality thing would be. And a good example of that is I was looking at a property. I was comping it for a listing, and we had 3 properties that were so outside the scope of all the other comparables. I really did a deep dive on them and discovered that all 3 of those properties had all gone in the same weekend. Right, that last weekend of March, that first week of April. Right, that was the peak crazy right there, and we've been dying off ever since. And you see it's come down. Now we're looking at normal seasonal bump here, anything we should have noticed, and then we just went right past where we were supposed to be. All right, and then all the bells and whistles and alarms starting going off. All right, last number we have on here, all right, is the 27th week of the year, last part of June, and you see we've actually down here we have dropped down below where we were at 2014. So this is the warning bells. All right, and what the warning bells is that we are moving into a buyer's market, right, and we'll be there in a couple weeks. All right, in a couple weeks, if these trends continue like that, we are going to be in a buyer's market. What's steering this buyer's market? All right, we had the perfect witching hour of 3 different things happen at the same time. Right, we had seasonality kickoff. Right, the normal spring turndown that we see coming into June. Right, where people don't want to be driving around in hot cars and they stop doing it. Right, we also have that initial surge that happens when school's out, people put their houses on the market, people start looking real quick. That frenzy, this is one of the things that drives our seasonality. So we had seasonality happen. We had the interest rates suddenly decide to start going crazy on us. All right. Once again, right here at this time period, right here. All right. And that seasonality added to the interest rates, which are still very, very sporadic, right? And it's so up and down day to day. It's jumping, a half a point a week here, and it can go that direction either way. Right? That put a lot of buyers off their feed, and now they've moved back. And then the final part that comes in is institutional buyers, right? Your iBuyers, right? Your investors, your second home people. They all decided to dump inventory. And you can see that in some of my previous charts, especially the one from last week, where I'm showing you we suddenly get this spike in houses suddenly hitting the market, right? And I thought they were panic sellers. And what they really are is these institutional people suddenly deciding to get out of the game. Case in point, I just got a call from one of my buyers. She found a property that was on the market for $300,000. And if you look at it, it sold for $300,000 a year ago. That makes no sense whatsoever. So I did some research on it and found out this is some company out of Texas, right? Took 80 houses from one. They took it from one side and moved it over one LLC, and they transferred it to another LLC. Both of these two LLCs happen to show the same suite number in some place in Texas, so they're just paper LLCs. Right? They moved it from this entity over here to this entity over here so they could start getting rid of them. And they're just dumping their inventory. Looking at this listing, this looks like something they probably decided they were going to pick up and try to turn into a rental, and realized maybe they got caught up trying to find a decent contractor. Maybe they couldn't get materials. They're I'm calling it a busted flip. All right, they're going to flip this thing into a rental, and then they realized they did not have the resources to get it rentable. And now they're just dumping it on the market, hoping somebody else will take a swing at it. So that's what we're seeing on that. Our 3 things: the seasonality, which is normally supposed to go down, interest rate spikes, pulling off buyers, and then these institutional sellers suddenly deciding they need to get rid of their stuff. And that's why we have the number we have today. So next chart here, I talked about this last week, and I talked about this previous weeks. All right, I'm always happy when Tina mentioned something. This one actually sort of annoyed me because this is something we were talking about in my sales meeting Monday morning. All right, going, hey, this is going to be our secret weapon. We're going to start doing about rate buy downs. We're going to start getting our buyers on board with the concept of we're going to be asking for closing costs so we can start doing a rate buy down. And next thing you know, there's Tina telling the whole world, hey, do what ProStar is doing. All right, sort of annoys me. But you can see how using permanent buy downs will wind up saving you money year over year. And she broke it down on this chart. All right, and I didn't get all of it screenshotted, but difference between just dropping the price $20,000. Right, dropping your price $20,000 will save you about $100 a month on your monthly payment. Right, but you drop your interest rate down with a permanent buy down, right? You're saving $300 a month instead of $100. All right, and if you're doing a 2-1, your first year you can save $584 a month for that first year. So, talk to your agent about that. Definitely talk to your lenders about that, or talk to Ray. That's why I'm here. Next chart we got coming up was, once again, every time the market starts going a little crazy, people start talking about, oh my God, the bubble's bursting, the bubble's bursting, the bubble's bursting, right? And that's going to be your guys on the internet, your crazy uncle on Facebook. That's going to be those websites that are always promising you that you should be buying gold right now. Those poor people out there who sold their house 2 years ago have been waiting for the crash to happen. Yeah, we hit a buyer market, like an honest to God buyer's market. You will start seeing a downturn, right? Houses in a normal market and a warm market. All right. And currently we have gone from insanity to warm. All right. I think we can hit buyer's market really easy. Right. Even then, houses always appreciate in inflation, and inflation is like what, 8% right now. So I don't, right, for it to actually start dropping, for it to actually have to home prices really go through the floor, for it to crash, we're going to have to see a serious reversal. Once again, we're going to have to see a serious reversal in supply over demand, and we don't see that yet. With the numbers I showed you today. Right. What we do see is demand's reduced, but we still don't have the inventory, even with the inventory jump that we've had. Right, a long way to go on this thing. And the other reasons is there's fundamental, just basic economic reasons that we don't have now that we had back then when we crashed. Right, let's go back to those. Right, she does the greatest charts on these things. Right, back then we had 100% financing. Right, you could anybody who could fog up a mirror could get financing. Right, we don't do those anymore. All right, everything requires a majority of people who have bought, use significant down payments or cash. We had a higher ratio of people who did 100% financing. Right, than we did. I'm not talking about the people who did a first-time home buyer program where they practically had to come up with nothing. All right, there are people out there who fall in that category, but that's a very small percentage. Back then, 100% financing, they could have done. This could have been their fourth or fifth house, right? And not only were they 100% financing for purchase, they were getting 100% for cash out refi, right? So they were always right there on the margin. If you bought a house last year, all right, 1 year ago today, right, you have a lot of equity built up, right? I think we're still, easily 20% year over year here, right? You get enough to get rid of your mortgage insurance if you still got that going, right? So we got a lot of equity holding out there. Second thing we got going for us, right, is they had a lot of people out there with short-term loans and interest-only payments. You guys remember hearing those, right? That's where you pay nothing against the principal. You're just paying the interest on it, right? Right. And when they eventually, in some of those things were, short-term interest only for the first 5 years, then we'll hit you with the principal payment. Well, guess what? That principal payment was not, for the 30-year loan anymore. That was trying to take that entire principal payment and slam it into the 25 existing years. And some of those things, those payments would double. All right. All right. Today, all of our loans are principal and interest, which means the principal is always paying, the balance is always coming down. This still lowers the foreclosure risk. All right. Remember, a lot of the inventory coming on the market back in those days that caused that glut of surplus inventory that we had was banks foreclosing and throwing those houses on the market. All right. We had adjustable rates back then. Do have people talking about adjustable rates now? Lenders are starting to offer, 7-year ARMs, that kind of stuff. Most of the rates, though, for the houses people currently owning, all right, were all fixed. Yeah, adjustable rates have just come out in the last couple months, but that is not the majority of housing out there. It's a very, very small percentage. Right. Back then, we also had unstable buyers. Remember the mirror foggers? All right, people who did not have jobs, all right, but were still able to get a loan. Okay, our buyers are incredibly stable right now, and the lenders do a hell of a job screening out the people who can't pay. Because one of the things that came out of our, congressional fix that I sort of agree with is that if I give you a loan, all right, and I sell that loan to a third party, if that third party finds out that you can't pay, I have to buy it back from them. All right, so all of a sudden, those people who are putting loan packages together are very, very interested in making sure that they're not going to have to buy that back, right? So they're sort of doing the work that they should have been doing back there in 05 and 04 and whatnot, right? Another one, this is also a really big one, all right? Rank speculation. All right, we're talking speculation here, all right? This is people who are buying a house and leaving it freaking empty, all right? They had no intent to occupy it, and they had no intent to rent it out. They were just holding on to it, waiting for the prices to go up and expecting to sell. All right. This created a false demand. All right. And flippers were buying and selling to each other and borrowing 100% to buy these things back and forth. And, tulip mania, if you guys have never heard it and you got nothing to do for the rest of the night, go Google that stuff, right? That's what was happening. People were holding on to houses. They weren't even cash flowing. All right. That creates a high vacancy risk. All right. All right. All of our houses right now, there's an intent to occupy right now with a renter or an owner. People who are buying, landlords are buying houses to put somebody in there, not just to hold on to it. Right. This also means that a lot of times that our housing numbers are a lot more accurate. Right. We don't have this surplus of houses that are not being used, but it's okay because people are happy to hold on to it. Now we know every damn house out there needs to have somebody in it. All right. So, and this is where somebody decided they wanted to text this thing. New home development, it was outpacing, all right, growth for 10 years. We had a 10-year run-up where people were building more houses than we had people for. And these speculators, with no intent to occupy to rent them, were buying them and holding on to them. All right? And on today, we've been struggling for the last 10 years to get enough houses, right? We blew through that entire surplus that the speculators and the home development people built up for us. We are well past that point, right? And now we have less, not enough houses for the people we have. So, other thing going on, Wall Street back then was actually invested in the mortgage industry. All right, that created a whole flood of mortgage credit availability, so people could get interest-only loans. All right, they could get into subprime loans. All right, these loans were then turned around and repackaged as being an A+ investment for various heinous things. Go watch The Big Short, great movie on that. All right, and so that meant when this thing did start coming apart, all right, all things were going to be bad. All right, today Wall Street does not invest on the money side of it. They invest directly into the house themselves, all right, using rentals, all right. That's what a REIT does nowadays. They actually, they are looking to pull in their cash flow for renting it out, so they're a little bit smarter on that side, all right. Anybody who's looking to put money into a flip company or putting in an offer pad and open door, all right. So Wall Street is now directed into something new and different, right? And then right at the very end of this thing, it's just new home development outpaced the population growth, right? Once again, just to reiterate, we had a high risk of vacancy that was taken on by developers. New builders kept building new homes, whether or not they knew they were going to have somebody to sell it at the end of the day. All right. Short-term rent nowadays, all right, short-term rentals and second homes purchased by individuals and outside investment groups, all right, gives us a moderate risk of vacancy. All right. Let's look what happened to Airbnb market when COVID shut down tourism. All right. They took a hit. That creates a part of risk that we got. That's part of the reason why we saw that sudden surge in inventory. All right, halfway through 2020 was people who were quite happily, had their little Airbnb in Scottsdale, all right, making money on it, and suddenly realizing, hey, we're shut down for COVID. We might never see a tourism season again, dumping their houses on the product. So that's something that just gives us a little bit of watch. And like I said, you've been hearing me yell about Airbnb. All right, and second home, vacation home people. All right, and that might actually be a really good part of our search. Let's go to this final chart, all right, because I love this final chart. Oh, and last thing that we have is a risk factor. All right, this is a serious. We're running out of water, people. All right, we could have restricted expansion in some areas, and it could put higher density in some areas with a stable water supply. Right, what this means is you might not be able to get the house with the yard anymore. All right. Personally, if water gets to be a real serious problem, I don't want to see another goddamn golf course, right? And no more swimming pools, all right? And I have other reasons why I don't like swimming pools, but they're going to start really where it's a desert, right? And we're starting to hit the edge of things. So watch for that as a restricting potential growth here, restricting the ability for housing and especially single family dwellings and whatnot, which ironically enough will actually run the price of single family dwellings higher because there will be less of them, right? But keep an eye on that. So last thing that she covered, all right, current market conditions, a lot of highlighters on here, right? New listings are coming in hot, right? Traditional buyers, right? Traditional buyers are the captain now, right? It's no longer the seller. All right, sellers need to be aware of that. We're not listing at what the last house on the street sold for. Add 20%. All right, expect buyers to start coming in and start asking things along the lines of, "Hey, I want seller's concessions. I got a Benzer here of things I want you to fix." Start getting in, anticipating that, getting ahead of that. Start going through the house, looking at things that might need to be repaired. You're going to have to start cleaning things now. All right, at least get a professional cleaning crew through in. I recommend zero res for your carpet before you replace the carpet. All right, but new listings are coming up. Rental supply is going up on the MLS. Now remember, that is just most landlords for the longest time have not been listing on the MLS because they didn't have to. All right, now they're starting to come to real estate agents listed on the MLS. All right, and so that's showing a potential reduction in the in people looking for rentals, and a lot of that was offset by just the very fact that it was cheaper there to buy there for a time. All right, rents are still going up. It still went up 4.3% year over year. Right, so let's keep an eye on that. All right, other things that you need to do before the sale price measures response. All right, list price weekly reductions are up 500% in the last 15 weeks. All right, that is one of the first canaries in the coal mine when you see people starting to reduce their ask on there. That's up. Days on market, we're up to 17 days overall. Right, individual zip codes and individual price points are different. That way, you always have to, keep an eye on your specific zip code and your specific price point in your zip code. All right, but days on market's going up. Remember them? That used to be five days. That was your weekend sell. Now it's 17 days. That's 2 weeks. Right, and that's the median number. All right, sales are coming in with seller's concession. They're still low. They're starting to rise. Agents are starting to remember what that meant. All right, new agents are being taught by the old agents in their office. Yeah, the whole thing into the finance section where you can sit there with seller's concessions to buyers' closing costs. All of a sudden, they're practically doing CE classes on this now because we got an entire generation of agents who don't know how to do that. All right, so what can we see in the next couple weeks? Fewer institutions, Open Door, OfferPad. They're not buying as many houses. They're having a hard time getting what they have. They don't want to take on any more. All right, we saw OfferPad do that first. I heard a rumor, not confirmed, that OfferPad canceled every one of their contracts that they had for purchase. All right, we've seen that happen before when Open Door did that during COVID. All right, so great way to burn an entire market. All right, so remember when Zillow crashed last year? OfferPad. They're on my watch list. All right, let's keep an eye on them because I think they're going to crap out here very, very shortly. All right, but with less institution purchasers, all right, that means we're going to see more price deductions, more days on the market, more concessions are coming up, including interest rate buy downs, closing cost assistance, home warranties, and repairs. All right, and she's calling it brace for a possible buyer's market, which means from a real estate agent, we got to start doing realtor tours. If we can find somebody who's hosting those. Right, I know of one agent or one escrow company that does realtor tours, and they are in the central corridor, mostly Arcadia. You're going to start seeing those in other areas now. Right. For you non-agent people, what a realtor tour is we all get on a bus or you drive in a caravan and you go to every house in the neighborhood and everybody walks through the house and critiques, here's my listing, guys, and everybody writes up what they hate about your listing. So you can go to the seller and go, they don't like your carpet. We need to look at that or data. And some places are actually big enough they'll get best in tour. You'll get like a little sign you can put up in the window. Means all the real estate agents liked your house the best, right? But it's a really good way to get agents actually into the house to find out whether or not they have a downstream buyer. All right. Open houses. I've always been a big fan of open houses, if nothing else, just to meet new buyers. And if nobody shows up, to catch up on my book reading. All right. So open houses are something. And we might need to start looking at staging homes again. All right. Home staging companies are going to need to, That's where they come in and they put furniture in the house if you've already moved out to make it look lived in, help people visualize the space. All right. One of my first buyers and stuff like that, we went through like 4 houses, and it was like, this bedroom's too small, this bedroom's too small, this bedroom's too small, this bedroom's too small. We finally find the house, all right, where there's a bed in the bedroom. She's like, oh, this is perfect. I'm like, this is exactly the same size bedroom we've always seen, but now there's a bed in there, and you can visualize the use of space. And from a seller standpoint, that might be worth doing, right? Pay the extra money, get a staging company in there, especially on your high-end listings, all right? Other things that are coming up from the last little bit here that I thought was really interesting, 25% of active listings right now, all right, were purchased in 2022, all right? And 36% were purchased in the last 6 months. So 36% of everything you were seeing on the MLS were purchased in the last 12 months, right? Like that company out of Texas I was telling you about, they're suddenly getting out of whatever, right? These can also be flips, right? And this chart breaks out in numbers really, really weird, right? It's saying the 53% second home investment, rental, or new home, right? That sounds like more on the purchase side, or maybe that they were showing when they bought that. 47% are normal owners, 12% are iBuyers, 13% are LLCs and investors, and 13% are builders. So that's what we got. If we're not in a buyer's market, we are really, really damn close to it. Individual zip codes, individual areas, individual price points matter. Cromford Report did something a couple days ago where they're saying that the 500 to 600 price point, right, balanced market. Right, you just don't have many buyers out there at that level, and enough people at that have decided to put their houses on the market. You are in an old school, 2014 balanced market. So heads up, let's go back to my next day's numbers and whatnot. Now the numbers for July 13th, 2022. Active this week were 15,674, up 988 from the week before. New listings were 2,862, up 304. Pendings this week were 1,307, up 192. Under contract looking for backup is 811, up 99. Contracts with the buyer's contingency are 137, up 23. Closings this week were 1,562. Coming soon is 1,028. And Cromford Report numbers are demand this week is 85.4 with our supply rate being 55.4. So we're still, once again, we see the demand is dropping. Seems to be not dropping as fast. I need to start tracking that on a chart to be able to let you know, but we still see supply coming up with that 15,674. Highest that I've been recording. Pretty average jump at 988. We have seen 1,000 point jumps before, and our news are coming back. Remember last week we had actually gone down substantially, and I was thinking that maybe that was the end of the bubble. Now, one of the interesting things about all this, and especially talking about the end of the bubble that I wanted to point out to you guys, is that the okay, the reason why my hair is all mucked up is because I just had to go get some open house signs, because everybody in the office is deciding to hold an open house this week because we are indeed turning to the old ways, and I had to run down to the storage unit with Omar to pick up some signs, and it's like 115 freaking degrees out there, and 5 minutes in the sun, and you're just nothing but a sweat ball for the rest of the day. So one of the things I wanted to point out, and I'm not sure if I did it, point out when I recorded with the Tina interview. I keep wishing I could interview, but the Tina report is that we seem to have had a lot of institutional buyers suddenly decide to start dumping properties on the market. And rumor, I have not substantiated this through any of my sources or anywhere else. On that report, somebody in the comments mentioned that OfferPad had decided to pull out of all of its contracts. Go ahead and pay the earnest money deposit to the sellers and just walk away. Still trying to research that. All right, that's going to be pretty big if that's true. Hopefully, I can find somebody who knows more about that. I think at some point it's going to show up like on regular news, but right now that's vicious water cooler gossip going on that. So, well, what does that mean basically? like I say, demand is dropping. If you are an iBuyer like Open Door or OfferPad, you're basically a glorified flipper. And we seem to see these people suddenly not deciding they want any more inventory to try to flip. So they're obviously anticipating that this is no longer going to be that glorious seller's market we're all used to. And they're looking at going back to a normal balanced, all right, or even maybe still on the seller side, but just a lukewarm. So let's hit the TINA numbers, and then I'm going to wrap up on the end of that. So I want to include it on the end of this chart, or the end of that report, a chart that I pulled off today, just to add in. This is something we've all seen before. At least you have if you've been paying attention. So this is the Crowd Demand Index and Supply Index, right? This is a the Crowd numbers I've been reading off to you. Those are numbers on the lower left-hand side of the screen. Right here. Boom. These right here. This chart over here is this going for the last 20 years, right? And of course, you know, I've shown you this before. Usually when I'm sitting there talking about the crash and the run up and everything like that in supply, you know, and how demand, you know, lowered during that time period. And of course, I'm always talking about how, you know, the crash didn't actually start happening until November of 07. You can see that right on the numbers and everything. And that was that magic little tipping point, okay? Demand started picking up as those prices started seriously coming down, like economics. That's how these things work. So this is over here, all right, 100 being the new normal. You can see that we started experiencing that little drop right there around March or so, and it's been dropping, and supply is starting to come back up. We still, even with 15,000 listings on the MLS, we're still just a little bit over halfway of where we should be to start being in the normal range, right? And demand has just barely started to come down. Now, you notice this right here, that's that COVID spike that happened in March of 2020. Right? And we were trending pretty happily with slowly reducing supply. And actually, what's funny about it is that except for that little bump right there and this surge in demand after the COVID hit, all right, creating this sudden drop in supply, you know, you could almost say that we are just crossing over, if I could draw a trend line here, just starting to cross over where our normal trend was going from all the way back to 2014. Right. And 2014 was, you know, once again, the legendary last balanced market we've ever seen. Right. In fact, to find another balanced market before then, you have to go all the way back to just about 2003. Notice balanced markets do not have to happen in the normal line. This right here is a somewhat balanced market, not much of a delta between the supply and demand side. Right. And that was just as close as what you'll ever see. Over here, 2001, 2002, all right, supply was a little high compared to demand. I think there was a recession going on right about then. Let's see, 2001. That would have been right after 9/11. You know, things were a little squirrely going on right there. And, of course, demand started tracking up at that point. But notice that demand index literally started dropping, all right, just a little bit before the supply started popping up, much like what we've seen here. You know, changes in demand tend to lead changes in supply, right? And changes in supply, when whatever the moving side is, tends to lead the other side by a couple weeks up to a month or so. And that's what we see continuously through this entire chart. So here's our interest rate spike they just hit. Interest rates start going up. Demand instantly starts dropping. You get a little bit of inertia still following through, all right, and then blammo. So where are we going to end? Don't know, all right, but we do know from Tina's numbers that we have certain zip codes and certain price points, all right, which can be considered in a balanced market. So keep on those. You'll see that start to grow as these two lines start getting closer and closer to each other. At one point, when we see supply surpass demand, then we can officially start saying, okay, now we're in a buyer's market. But there is a reason why all of our listings, all of our agents suddenly want to do open houses on their listings. this week. There's going to be a reason why this weekend when you drive around, you're going to see a lot of open house signs, right? Because the days of just putting a sign in the front yard and waiting for your $20, $30, $40,000 over asking offer is over. And we might never see that again because that was really tied into those interest rates. So other thing I wanted to point out is I already mentioned, here we are having our classes and whatnot, and bringing our agents in and telling them we're going to be working on things. And next, an hour and a half later, Tina's telling the entire world to do this exactly the same thing we're planning on doing. And then this morning, I get an email from one of the lenders. All of my lenders, okay, even ones I don't work with and I'm just on the mailing list, they're all suddenly starting to talk about those seller buy down strategies that we talked about a couple episodes ago. I might refresh that for next week. I might make the graphics a little bit more better. Did have some great graphics that we got from Tina, but I just didn't screenshot them right. So, but that is that's going to be a big thing. All right. Same thing with Benzers. People looking at, wanting repairs on houses. Probably be best if you are a savvy seller who wants the minimum of fuss and get top dollar. Don't defer any more maintenance anymore. All right. Start looking at getting carpets at least cleaned, if not replaced. If they're really ragged, I always advise people try to clean them first. You'd be surprised what certain cleaner companies can do. Start getting that touch-up, that paint touch-up. Walk around the outside of the house. Right? I'll guarantee you there's parts of your house that you probably don't walk around except maybe once a month or so. I got one side of my house. I only see it maybe, I would say about once a month. I'll go over there every once in a while, all right? But it's still there. And, start finding out what's going on with houses like that. And keep your ear to the ground on what's going on in your neighborhood. A lot of times when things start getting a little tight, word of mouth can sell a house just as well as anything else can. All right. Make sure your neighbors know you're moving. If they have neighbors that they want to, people they want to have as neighbors, like maybe move family members in, best friends, that kind of stuff, that the alternative ways of marketing are going to become a big thing. I personally like when I do an open house, I like to go around real early and hand a flyer off to all the neighbors. Like right even before the last sign goes up. And that's pretty much because they're going to come over and steal your flyers anyways. But if you get a chance to talk to a neighbor one-on-one and let them know what's going on. Hey, this house is for sale. This house is going to be empty for a while. But if you see strange people coming in and out of it, they're probably going to be real estate agents and sellers. Or buyers. And, by the way, do you know anybody who might want this house? All right? It's worked for me before in the past. So, well, once I put all of these things together, it looks like we're probably about the 45-minute mark, and I got a lot more things to do today, including edit this video. So you guys have a great weekend. Once again, watch your kids and pets around the pool. On Tuesday, we lost a 3-year-old girl because unattended child around a swimming pool. Let's try to get one more. All right, I can't get you guys to go through an entire summer without losing a kid. Let's just try this weekend. All right? How about if on Monday I look at the news and I don't find that anything horrible happened around a swimming pool? That would really make my next week, right? Thank you very much for watching Work Your Circles, and I'll talk to you guys later.